All right, everybody knows I love the unique stories on the field, but more off the field about leadership, about parenting, mental health awareness, you name it. Those are the things that get me going. I saw a tweet from my next guest. Been around Major League Baseball for 30 years, played, managed, an incredible baseball mind, Clint Hurdle. And now I just got my book from Amazon, Hurdleisms. Got it last night. Phenomenal lines about leadership and life. Clint, thanks so much for joining me. How are you?
Matt, this is an organic connection, isn't it? I mean, you read a tweet online, you reach out, and then what you shared with me obviously connected with my journey and my learning opportunities. And I said, what a better opportunity for two guys to get together and maybe chop up some things that are going on in each other's lives and maybe share some experience, strength, and hope. So, what's funny is I even spoke to my son Christian. The tweet that went out was about my son Christian, about the fact that he retired from baseball at the age of 4, and he chose directions that, left to my own means, I wouldn't have chosen for him. I mean, you're the manager of a baseball team. It'd be kind of cool if your son played baseball. Well, Christian early on let me know that that was not his passion. And each one of my children, my oldest daughter, Ashley, who I had from my second marriage, she's now 39. Each one of my children and Maddie, their special needs young adult, and Christian, each one of my children has chosen a sport that I knew nothing about. So they absolutely neutered me. They stole the two basic components that every father needs to thrive, and that's the ability to second guess a coach and overcoach their own kid.
So real quick to everyone, the tweet, I'm gonna kind of cut it down, but the bottom line is I see this tweet from Clint about 3 or 4 days ago. My son Christian's 20, retired from baseball at age 4. He's a pastry chef and a baker out in Aspen. When I talk about pastries and baking with him, it's like when my dad talked to me about baseball. His eyes light up, his heart starts beating. If he had a tail, I could see it wagging. He absolutely loves it. And what do you do? What do you want as a father for your kids? You want them to find something they love that they can hold on to and pour themselves into. God put all 3 of my kids into my life to transform me. So I see this. I've got a 16-year-old and a 12-year-old. The 16-year-old is literally baseball 24/7. And the 12-year-old's a pretty good player, probably better than the 16-year-old was at that age, but really is not as interested. And I think so many parents want, just like you, the dads, we live within our kids and we want them to be someone who we are. But I just like, so let's talk about how do you, when you first started, if you had a message to start out to parents about how do you deal with that and how important it is to deal with it for your kids.
Well, I think the root of all of this is it's freedom of choice, and we have an opportunity. God gives us freedom of choice. What He doesn't give us is the opportunity to choose the circumstances that come from our choices. And I have just seen in my lifetime, from being a kid to a young adult to a parent, now to a 67-year-old man, I've seen too many instances of people force feeding their thoughts, hopes, desires, and dreams on their children. And very rarely does it work out well. And by walking through that, I had two buddies in my hometown growing up that were better players than me. And trust me, they were really good because I was a really good player. But they were better than me, and they chose other things to do. And neither one of their parents force-fed them, into staying with baseball. They both turned into more than average, respectable, professional people in their own rights and what they wanted to do. And we're all wired different. God doesn't make any junk. God made Christian to be Christian. Christian retired from baseball at the age of 4. He had a creative gene that I never had. It evolved around the 3 sports he chose: karate, and then tennis, and then crew. He loved crew, was the one team sport that he became passionate about. Another sport I knew nothing about, so I can't second guess the coach or overcoach my kid. What the space he put me in was all I could do. The best thing I could do for my son was to show up, to drive, and to cheer. That was it. I would ask him a question every time after the event. Hey, what do you think of what happened today? And he would say, Dad, it sucked, or Dad, I was good, or whatever. And then I go, when he got finished, sometimes he elaborated. You could just see the passion. Some days it was a hard day. He didn't want to talk about it. Whenever he was finished, I would just go, well, you know what? All I want you to know is I loved watching you do what you do. That's it. So for the parents,
it's such a great message.
And the parents, you know the feeling. We all know the feeling of being pushed or forced into something. We know that. We get it at work. We get it in other places. Nobody likes it. You just said it earlier. You know, nobody likes to be told what to do. You can nudge them. You can remind them, and then that's it. Let it go. And the one reminder I've shared with a lot of parents is because they'll say, okay, I'm good. I'll let him do whatever he wants to do, or I'll let her do whatever she wants to do. And maybe she'll come back to it. Yes. I go, stop it. No, you just ruined it. You're still holding on. Just let it go and see where it takes them.
I'm telling you honestly. So 3 or 4 weeks ago, before the season started, he's going to play the last year of majors. He's 12. And I looked at him and I said, it was an incredible moment. I said, I don't care if you play baseball or not. You're not going to disappoint me. You know I love baseball, but that's not whatever you like and love, I'm going to support. And not only that, I'm going to take you to those events. I'm going to do, if you like biking, then we're going to go watch electric bikes race or whatever it is. And I just look at this line that I printed out that you said about your son. His eyes light up, his heart starts beating. If he had a tail, I could see it wagging. It's so powerful because what it says is that's what they love. And when you see that, if you still are saying, and I did say, maybe he'll come around. I'm not going to lie. And it just stop. Let them be who they are. And it's, by the way, it's not easy. It's really not. And I'm still struggling with it, but he's playing and he's enjoying it. We've had 2 practices, but I'm not going to force feed it. And I think, again, it's where parents struggle so much. And it's like, you have to let the kid be who he is and enjoy what he wants, not what you want.
What I found also over time is that when you can get through the initial hard, this situation, and there's many situations in life that are hard. And the analogy I use, have you ever tried to push a car that's broken down on the side of the highway? You know, you put it in neutral, you get behind it. That initial push is incredibly hard, right? And maybe you can get somebody to help you with it. So maybe your wife helps you with your situation, or maybe there's a friend at work who's going through something similar. So maybe they help you with the push. Once you get that immovable object rolling, it's not as hard a push. No. It's almost like you can just stand behind it and walk, put your hand on the bumper and go. But it's the initial push. It's getting some traction. And you never get traction without friction, Matt. Yeah. And what you're going through right now is just some friction. You know, some sparking going on. What you want, okay, I'm gonna let it go, and then you fall back into it. You're going to. Those are human thoughts and emotions that are going to come. They're going to land on you. And what I've learned to do over time, let them land, acknowledge them, and then tell them to beat it.
Absolutely.
You know, just beat it. I'm gone. I got to get out of there because my job as the parent, I believe, is to put my child in the best position for them to be happy and successful at what they love to do. End of story.
Absolutely. The book is Hurdleisms. You can get it anywhere at bookstores. I got mine off of Amazon. I just pulled some quotes. I read through it. I want to talk to you about a couple things. I want to start with leadership and culture. You manage the Rockies and the Pirates, 2 organizations that are not known over the last 20, 25 years as, you know, World Series contenders. Can you just talk about the keys to building a winning culture, walking into maybe not a winning culture? How do you start?
Well, it starts with the leadership group. And when I walked in, I was fortunate in Colorado. We had a strong leadership group. We had Kelly McGregor as the president. we had Dan O'Dowd as a general manager that had come to us from Cleveland and was starting that initial hard push with Kelly. When Buddy Bell was let go in 02, I had been there for 5 years as a hitting coach. So I had history, experience, had my finger on the pulse of what we were trying to do. However, when they asked me to come in and be the manager, there's 6 years of minor league managing. I needed it. It was good experience gained. But that really at times proved inconsequential for some of the things I dealt with as a major league manager. No experience. It was all new stuff. Most days something showed up that I'd never experienced before. However, that being said, somebody needs to show somebody else that somebody's got the wheel.
Yeah.
Somebody's hands are at 10-2. Now, Kelly did, Dan did. I needed to be that guy in the clubhouse for a group of men that probably had kind of blown with the wind for a number of different years. Okay, we're into this. We'll try this. We never really landed, set, or committed to something. So through, Dan, Kelly, and I, we just got some consistent messaging down, what we were going to focus on. And it wasn't a list of 20. I believe in threes. It's proven to be scientifically proven that most people are at their best when you give them no more than 3 tasks or 3 thoughts.
Yep.
For Maddie, our daughter with special needs, we give her 3 things that she needs to knock off in the morning, 3 things in the afternoon, and then 3 things later. It's really all she can digest. And for me, it's all I can digest. In the book, I actually write about multitasking makes me multi-mediocre.
I wrote it down. That's one of my favorites.
So we decided to prioritize what's important. Number one, the first thing that was important is we are no longer going to feel less than. Oh, we play at altitude. Oh, we don't have the same payroll. No, we're in the big leagues. Our job is to perform to the best of our abilities. That will be our bar. That is where we'll set our bar for us to function as an organization to the best of our abilities. What that'll turn into, time will tell. But if we focus on that daily and we focus on that consistently and there's no cross messaging, we can at least get some traction. And for us in the dugout, it just became down to playing better baseball.
Yeah.
Get starting pitching to work so you can use your bullpen when you want to, not when you have to have a lineup that's diverse where you can score in multiple ways, to have a lineup that's stretched out where there's not a hole at the bottom at 7, 8, 9, and it's 3 outs you're giving away every time you roll it over. It was catching the ball, throwing the ball. So we just really tried to simplify things. And then what we did with all of it, Matt, we sprinkled some fun on it.
Absolutely.
Because when you get in those situations where it's not going well, it's like there's a cloud over your head. Every day is, Groundhog Day. And then we found different ways to have fun, to kind of help create some excitement. And then we turned a lot of that ownership over to the players. Once they grew up, they saw the vision, they saw the plan, they bought in. And then it's kind of like when you throw the keys to your kid and say, okay, here's the keys to the car. Take me for a ride.
Empower them, right? I mean, lower the bar and you lose the winners, raise the bar and you lose the losers. Love that line from the book. And what it says to me is you do have to tell people and show people that it's not just about starting, like you said, with winning. It's going to be a great team culture. It's going to end up that we're going to win, but you knew right away when you got to these teams who the guys. When I got to the station, the first thing I asked the person that I was talking to is, they said, "What do you want to know about the station?" I said, "Give me one thing. Send me a list of the guys or gals that are causing a disruption in the workplace. That's all I want to know." And that's how I started. And it's like, I truly believe that if you have people, it doesn't matter how good they are. It doesn't matter if they're causing issues, and they'll weigh everybody and everything down. And it's tough for you because, if you do have great players, you can't really, what are you going to do? But in the end, you got to have, and so I'm leading into talk about how I deal with this with my employees. We're friends, I guess, out of the office. How do you balance having relationships with players as a manager? I've always wondered this, where you're trying to be personal with them and fun, but it's a business as well.
Well, and I'm not here to, dig at narrative or, wording. One of the things I tried to keep out of our clubhouse was anybody that would come down and say it's a business, because it's not a business to us, it's sport. And it's always been sport. And I remind my general manager from time to time, they're not pieces, they're players. You can call, the conversations you have on the third floor or the fourth floor in other spaces. I get it. I'm an honor. I'm just asking you humbly, when you're down here, we don't talk about this as a business and we don't talk about them as pieces. We talk about them as players. There's a heartbeat. So even for the guys, I did similar things in Colorado, and in Colorado, I knew better because I'd been there, but in Pittsburgh, I didn't know. I asked me who the disruptive behavior, guys were or whatever. And then what I did is I had a conversation with all of them and just say, I want to tell you some things that I've heard, because I had to do some due diligence and I had to do some research. I'm going to be very transparent, tell you what I've heard. Now, then I would share it with them, and I would say, okay, I'm done. I'm flushing it. All I know is I'm going to judge you on us from this day forward. And here are going to be the standards I'm going to ask you to meet for the team. Not for me, for the team. And as long as you can do those, we're going to be good. If you cannot do those, the next conversation we have will be dramatically different than this one.
What a great message, though. It's not, you didn't say you're doing it for me. You're doing it for the team. I mean, that just gives me the chills, because and so many people are, you've got to do this for me. You got to, no, you don't. You do it for yourself and you do it for the team. And that sends that message that you're not telling them what to do. You're not the one saying, hey, and taking the credit for stuff. You're doing it for the guys around you, right? I want to go rapid fire with you on some things. I grew up in the 70s, early 80s. You guys, when you played for the Royals, you lost to the Yankees 2 years in a row, and then you beat them in 1980. I think you swept them. The late 70s Yankees were the powerhouse, and everybody knows that. When you lost the two in a row and then you faced them the third time, is there any mentality of, we just can't? How do you get over trying to get out of your head that these guys are really damn good, they've got our number? Is there such thing as that gets in players' heads?
I do think it could get in players' head, but I think that goes back to, that's when your leadership default button has to kick in. Somebody needs to come in and grab the wheel and explain to us or them why we lost. And basically, Whitey's messaging was, it's pretty simple. They outperformed us. They met the demands of the game better than us. We were with them in every game. We were right there. So the degree of, we're very close. There's not a large gap in talent. And what he asked those men to do was to become even more committed to one another and the brand of baseball they were playing. And he did almost turn it into an us versus them mentality. The Cowboys from the Midwest could go play the City Slickers from New York City, and the money and the payroll, and everybody's got one name. It's Catfish, it's Reggie, it's Sparky, it's Thurman. That's when you're special, when people use one name and you know who you're talking about.
Yeah.
And it was us. It was kind of us against them. And our guys, the fun part about watching our organization work then, because I only spent a bit of time with them the second time they lost. First time I was in the minor leagues, but it was an organizational, bittersweet ending, is that you realize, you know what? They got to the point where they said, we can beat these guys. We beat them during the season. Maybe they had a little more experience. Maybe they had a little bit more depth. But at the end of the day, it was just about playing the game, and they played the game better than us. So there's nothing to beat up other than we just need to perform better. We need to execute better, win in the small margins. And the third time for us to go in and to get after them the way we did at home and then finish them off in Yankee Stadium, I won't say there was skeletons let out of the closet, but I think there was just an affirmation of self-belief. We did this to prove ourselves right, not to prove anybody else wrong.
Wow. So powerful. Steve Kerr's the head coach of the Warriors. We're very close. We broadcast the games, and he comes on every week. He's one of my favorite, not sports people. in the world. I just love the way he handles himself. He does get critiqued by people because they say anybody could win with the players he has. My message to them, I'd love for you to comment on this. I think it may be harder to win with the talent he has because of maybe the egos and such, and the chemistry has to be better than it is with guys that are less talented. Is there something to say about that? Talk to me about how, dealing with, managing a great team and the pressures versus, hey, we got nothing to lose. No one thinks we're going to win.
Well, I definitely think there's something to be said about it. I mean, you go back to a period in time over 20 years, the Yankees spent more money in baseball than anybody in the game and never won anything. Sometimes it is harder to win when you're supposed to. There's so many things outside your control. And Steve's aware of this. Any person that manages, coaches at a high level, injuries, players' lives. Players' lives get messy. Coaches' lives get messy. There's a lot going on other than them just getting on a court or getting on a baseball field and playing the game. So you've got to find a way, to keep that mojo working, to keep positivity happening, to keep an opportunity for people to share grief, to share loss. And then you're going to have misconduct at times. You're going to have people acting out, and you got to reel them back in so they're not distractions. It's almost like you are the ringmaster of a 3-ring circus throughout the season, personal, professional, and then you take everything else and put it in the third ring. The one thing I learned in recovery, and it's in the book, I'm 26 years sober. I can't control what other people say, think, or do. So guys like Steve and myself, it's amazing how many people that we don't ask for help from or wisdom from are more than willing to share how we should be doing our job based on the limited information they have. But you know what? It's okay. That's what fans do. I do it in football season. I do it in the NBA a little bit. But I also know I don't know everything. But I can't control what all the players do. I can't control what all the coaches do.
Right.
I can't control what the media says. I can't control what the fan base says. And I can't control, the actions of other people towards the organization or towards our plans. What I can control is my messaging, the way I show up every day, the message I deliver with our club every day, the meetings I have, whether they're individual or group related. And basically, I needed to be the lightning rod for all the crap.
Absolutely.
When you sign up for that job, when everything goes wrong, it's on me. It's right here. When everything goes right, it's on them. I would say when things are bad, I need to be a mirror. And when things are good, I need to be a window where people can see through the play. They can see the players and the coaches. There's many fingerprints on success. And sometimes we don't acknowledge all the different fingerprints on the successes that we're having.
I saw the vulnerability show in your book, Hurdleisms, is really awesome. And I applaud you. It's not easy to talk about how there was issues with alcohol, and congratulations on the sobriety. You went through a lot of other things off the field that you dealt with. I always say it's not how you react when things are going great. It's how you react when they're not. It shows the true person that you are. But, let's just talk real quick about how you dealt with things when they were bad. I deal with a lot of our mental health awareness, initiatives, and it's just so important for people to hear from someone like you when that things aren't going to go great, and you got to figure out how to bounce back, but it's not easy.
No, it's simple. It's not easy because really there are steps to take if you follow them. And I got shared a lot of those steps along my journey and refused to listen, or chose not to listen, or would go back to numbing my hurt, pain, anger, angst, anxiety with alcohol, which was a temporary relief. And I can't even, temporary relief is an oxymoron, right?
Yeah, yeah.
All it did was make me not think the way I was thinking. It just changed my thinking for a short period of time because, 10 hours, 12 hours later, I'm right back in the same position I was, just hungover.
Yep.
dealing with the same mess. But I did that for a long period of time. And I was good at putting on different masks to get through my day and to show up and be the person I thought other people wanted me to be. So my first encouragement is, man, when it starts getting rough and you start feeling less than, understand you're not less than. The situation is making you feel less than. You got to find a way to get out of the situation. And it's not just by changing your environment. Well, I'm drinking too much in Denver. I'll move to Boston. I won't drink it. No, geographical change is not going to change what you're dealing with internally. And basically, asking for help is probably the biggest superpower that's out there in the universe for us right now. There are so many different ways to reach out and ask for help. I call it jackass man mentality. You know, I get to that point, well, I dug myself in this hole, I'll dig myself out. Brilliant. The guy that drove the car in the ditch is going to be the guy that's going to get the car out of the ditch. You know, how about just time out? Okay, I'm in a ditch. Has anybody ever been in a ditch before? Can you help me get out of this ditch? Hey, so-and-so, what can I do to stop driving in this ditch? You know, it seems to happen, you know, once a month. It's the same behavior repeated, and we all know what that's called. Insanity. So we've got to find different ways to navigate our day. And sometimes it's people, it's places, or it's things that are activators, you know. And I just found out over time, my life had become unmanageable.
Yeah.
Now, was I managing it? To a certain degree, but things were spiraling away. You don't get 2 divorces by coincidence. You don't become an alcoholic by coincidence. A lot of other things, a lot of red flags bouncing up. And basically, you know, I think my wife actually told me I was going through male menopause. She wasn't my wife at the time, but she just goes, you know, there's a guy in there that comes out that I love, but I don't ever know how long he's going to be out. When he comes out, is he going to stay? Does he go away? When he comes out, she goes, Clint, here's what I got for you at the end of the day. She goes, until you find a way to make yourself happy, you'll never, ever have any chance of making me happy. And that was like, events had happened along with that, but her words said, okay, so what do I need to do to make myself happy? I'm a man, so I created a list. Things I was doing well, things I wasn't doing well. But the top of my list, I said, I need to recommit my life to Christ, and I need to get sober. And I had 16 other things, Matt. To this day, 26 years later, I took care of the first 2. I don't even know what the other 16 are or were. And for the first time in my life, when I went to work on becoming the best version of myself, I didn't try and do it overnight.
Yeah.
It was one day at a time. Truthfully, that old slogan, one day at a time. I just tried to have a good day today.
Well, you said you made the list of 16. Let's go back to what you said before, which is I totally agree with. 3 tasks. When you put a list of 27 things on a legal pad that I used to do, how many did you get done? 0, right? Prioritize, take those top 2 or 3 and knock them out. Incredible stuff. I'm going to ask you 2 or 3 more things. You can't thank you enough for your time. Random questions. Toughest pitcher you ever faced and why?
Shane Raleigh. I'm one for my lifetime against Shane Raleigh. Minor leagues, major leagues, American League, National League. The one hit I got was in Omaha. It was a player lost a ball in the moon. An outfielder lost the ball in the moon that fell in for double. This guy had me on a leash. I was the guy he would send a cab to at the hotel to make sure I showed up at the park if he was starting the game that night. This guy had a very good major league career.
Lefty?
But the lefty,
yeah.
Seattle, Philadelphia. He was probably
yeah.
Every time I got traded to another league, he got traded. It was amazing, the symmetry, and he just shoved on me. I'd see him on the mound. It was like, oh my God,
that is hysterical. I mean, I wouldn't have guessed him in 1,000 guesses. I wouldn't have guessed him.
No, most people won't. But people ask me. I know what he did to me. He cut me up every time he saw me.
I'm sure people ask you, who's your favorite teammate or who's your favorite player? I don't want you to necessarily single out, I want you to single out a couple guys. When I say best teammate, I don't mean on the field as much as, just guys that you just like, no matter what, you're playing baseball or not, just were so like important to you in your career.
Well, I was fortunate. George Brett was very good to me in some areas. But at the same time, Hal McRae, Amos Otis, and Frank White were good to me from in other areas. Charlie Lau as a coach, Whitey, I picked things from. But teammates, when I went to Cincinnati, actually Johnny Bench gave me some advice. I played with Seaver in New York, and I played with him in Cincinnati. Tommy Hume in Cincinnati. As I went on and played with the Cardinals, Ricky Horton's still one of my best friends. Ken Daly. It was a pleasure to watch Tommy Herr play. It was a pleasure to watch Ozzie play. The guys I got close to, though, they're the one. Dan Quisenberry was probably one of the closest teammates I ever had. I knew Quiz when he pitched from up here in the low minor leagues. And eventually, he became a knuckle dragger. And basically, the quote in the book, the Hurdleism shower well, came from conversations Quiz and I were having our first full season in Waterloo. We were horrible, both of us, terrible. And the first time either one of us had ever been, it wasn't that we were average, we were bad.
Yeah.
Every time he took it out there, it's 2 or 3 innings and he's rocked. I'm hitting 180 at the All-Star break with like 3 homers and 18 RBIs. We were bad, but we always seemed to. I think it was because we were just slow getting our clothes off and just trying to get the day off of us and replaying and we get in the shower, it'd be him and me. And we look at each other and go, man, that was a hard day. We go, yeah, maybe tomorrow will be better. But through those conversations, we got to the point where, hey, let's just wash it off. And washing it off turned into the term shower well, but that just meant whatever the day's put on you, good, bad, sideways, up, down, cleanse, rinse, shampoo, rinse, repeat. Get it all off, let it go down the drain, because wherever you're going, you need to be there when you get there. You don't need to be dragging today into tonight, and you definitely don't need to be dragging today into tomorrow, because tomorrow, you got a chance to have a good day tomorrow. That one hasn't even been written.
Quiz and Kenta Colby, who I grew up with the I still to this day have no idea how the hell they threw the ball like that. It's mind-boggling.
Kent Colby actually took Quiz aside when he was starting to make that career change. Whitey reached out. It may have been Leland at the time.
Chuck Tanner, maybe?
Maybe Tanner, whoever it was at the time with Pittsburgh, and said, hey, I'm bringing a kid over that's starting to drop down, trying to figure it all out. Is there any chance that Colby will meet with him? And all I know is when our bus got off, we went in, everybody got dressed, we all went to the field. Quiz went somewhere to a backfield and met Colby, and they were back there all day.
Unbelievable. That's so cool. The last thing I'm going to ask you is, I'm really interested in this. Let's drop the old school versus new school debate. I'm an old school guy. I have a very hard time with what's going on in baseball. I look at you as an old school guy, but you're new school in that you had to kind of be new school managing these teams, when you did. Why, when you say that, is it because because managers have to now do that? Or are you just like, you know what? We have to put both in and mix them in and get over the fact that things change. You do put a guy in second in the 10th inning, which I still can't even get my arms around. But talk about why you say that.
For all clarity, I still can't understand that either. I'm completely 100% against the ghost runner. Over time, I have learned the hard way that there's other people in this world that are much smarter than me in a lot of different areas. It's basically called humility. There's 2 kinds of people in this world. You read it in the book. Those that are humble or those that are about to be. Yep. I've been about to be. I've been that guy that has learned over time. If one time in Denver, I had an intern follow me and used a pitch counter. I said, every time I make a decision, I want you to hit a pitch counter. He goes, well, how will I know when you make a decision? I said, I'm just going to point my finger. So he followed me around from 1 o'clock in the afternoon till we came off the field, 5:30 after or 5 o'clock after BP, whatever it was. And he said, I'd bring him to my office. I said, so what do you got? He goes, 212. I go, what? He goes, you made 212 decisions. I go, I still got 2 hours before the game, and then I've got a game. And I'm going to think that I'm going to get every one of those decisions right. So that just opened my awareness that, okay, how do I best serve the organization by making the best decision possible? That became the idea of inclusion with my coaches, reaching out on them different ways, different aspects. Yes, people reach out, but how do I empower them? How do I tear down the walls where they're looking at the manager and can look at the manager and say, dude, you kicked that. That was really poorly done. Here's how I would have done it. So I built up a series of exercises. We did some things together where over time, the wall or the ability to speak truth to power is challenging for a lot of people. Where we eliminated that, it was just Matt and Clint having a conversation like we are now. It wasn't Matt, the general manager, the owner. It's not Clint, former big league. No, it's Matt and it's Clint. And we're just kicking things around. So I've learned over time that there are people that can help me make better decisions if I will include them in my posse or in my decision-making process. Now, the one that got my attention and turned me on, at least made me buy into analytics, because for a time, I was this guy.
Yep.
I know what I know. Okay. I didn't get here by any of that. And I was the old guy, shouting. And after 2 hard years in Pittsburgh, Neil had brought some things to me. I'd accepted some, fought back on some others. So we were kind of working it out, but we weren't connected. We weren't connected the way we needed to be connected. And finally, we had an 8-hour sit down after the 12 season, and we laid it all on the table. And he goes, Clint, there's analytics available for you that I really believe will make you a better manager, help you in your decision-making process. That's all you've ever talked about. And I want you to run the game. I mean, he said, if I can't trust you in the dugout from 7:30 to whenever, we got a problem.
Yeah.
I'm not going to hand you a playbook. I'm not going to tell you what to do. He said, but this information we're acquiring, I don't think you're giving some of it the time you should. I'm like, okay, give me one, for instance. I kind of probably said it like that. Give me one, for instance. He goes, all right. He says, why do you hit Andrew McCutchen third? And I'm like, oh my gosh, that's the easiest question in the world, because he's the baddest dude on our team. And that's what I grew up with. The baddest dude on your team hit third. Your leadoff guy's supposed to get on base, and then this third guy is your dude. And everybody knew that in the game that I grew up in, right? And he goes, yeah, that's kind of what I heard too. But he goes, let me tell you, the last 2 years, how many times Andrew McCutchen has gone to the plate with no outs. I mean, 2 outs and nobody on base. Yeah. 2 outs, nobody. The number blew my mind. I go, what? He goes, it is the most flagrant violation of a lineup manipulation that we have. Because supposedly our best hitter hit more with 2 outs and nobody on base than any other spot in the lineup.
Wow. That's I mean, if he told you one thing now at that point, you have to be like, okay. I mean,
I wanted to throw up in my own mouth how stupid I had been, or how, just unaware, not stupid, unaware, and closed-minded.
Yeah.
And so then we started unraveling things. We had already gone into the shifting. We had done some bullpen work, but now it was like, okay, let's go. We're not going to win by throwing money at things. We've got to win on the margins. We got to win everywhere we can, working the analytics help. And that's when we pushed it all together. And at the end of the day, I still believe the best organizations are run from a hybrid model where it's a combination of analytics and human analytics.
That happened in 2012, if I'm not mistaken. You were manager of the year in 2013.
Exactly.
It's pretty cool.
It is, because truthfully, you never get manager of the year finishing 4th. You never get manager of the year without good players. But we did things in 13 based on analytics like we had never done before, and they helped as well.
It's incredible. I have taken way too much of your time. This has been absolutely amazing. Hurdleisms, go get it. Amazon, wherever you get your books. It is phenomenal. I got it last night. I read through it, and I've just highlighted a bunch of incredible lines for all different kinds of stuff, whether it's leadership, whether it's things to live by, whatever it is. Clint, I can't thank you enough.
Matt, this was an honor. It's so much fun to get to know somebody a little bit better, and knowing that you're an aspiring father like I still am. Let's lean into and lean on to each other as we walk this journey together. All right? Deal?
Love it. Congrats on everything you've done, and congrats on the book, and best to the family.
Thank you. Best to you.